Ciao mondo, hello world, hola mundo, hello mom, grüß Gott. We are here in Vienna at the IRRIV meeting with Professor Kotanto from IRRIV in New York, and he's ready to tell us about some interesting studies he presented here on oxygen saturation in dialysis. So Peter, can you tell us about your study and your collaborators?
Of course. First, really thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. So, over the last months, we studied arterial oxygen saturation in hemodialysis patients. So what we did was to follow the intradiuretic arterial oxygen saturation in patients who have an AV fistula and who were treated by hemodialysis together with the grid-line device, where we would get arterial oxygen saturation values every minute. And what we found actually is the patients who have a low oxygen saturation, in particular below 90% for an extended period during dialysis. So we said more than 1/3 of treatment times. And these patients had two specific characteristics. First, they were EPO resistant, and second, they had a pro-inflammatory phenotype. And when we then followed those patients over 12 months, we saw that those patients with this prolonged intradiuretic hypoxemia, they had a high mortality rate, substantially high mortality rate, and high hospitalization rate. I mean, we are not yet sure what the reason for that is. We think maybe ventilation diffusion imbalances, for example, could contribute to that. But this is part of ongoing research.
Do you think that this is partially dialysis related? In the past, when we had the bioincompatible membranes and we used acetate, we were losing CO2 through the membrane, and therefore people were stopping breathing, and then you had hypoxia because of this reason.
Yeah. So, I mean, now with bicarbonate dialysis, there is, I think, a remote possibility that the dialysis procedure as such could play a role, although we have no real hard indication for that. We rather think that it may be pre-existing cardiac and pulmonary conditions that would predispose the patients to this hypoxia.
I think to agree with you is much more a patient-related factor rather than a dialysis-related factor. And in fact, this patient may have a cardiac condition that is unable to cope with the necessary change in cardiac output, blood flow, or simply perfusion of the organs.
Absolutely. And the other aspect, I think, is, as you know, many patients sleep during dialysis. And it could well be that patients experience while on dialysis sleep apnea episodes, which again could really, depress the oxygen saturation. So I think it's a lot of work to be done, but very fascinating because when you think about it, the eventual goal of the hemodynamics cardiovascular system is to bring oxygen to the tissues. And oxygen was kind of a little bit in the gap.
So, and this paper is published?
Yes, the paper has been published in C. Jason a few weeks ago. The first author is Anne-Marie Wösten, who was back then a senior research fellow with IRRIV. And more papers to come.
Well, good luck with your research, and with this I thank you very much for joining today Cappuccino in Vienna, and have a wonderful day. Excellent.
Very good.
Excellent.